Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible. Make it in full screen mode
Sure.
and click on hide.
Okay. All right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So, yes, like ma'am introduced, I am Tenzing Bhutia, Assistant Professor of English at Sikkim Manipal University, CDOE, and I will be presenting on Voices from Mountains, Buddhist Oral Narratives as Cultural Bridges in the Eastern Himalayan region. Now, I completed my MPhil on exploring Buddhist rites and rituals through oral narratives in the Eastern Himalayas of India. And currently, my doctoral work revolves around studying narratives of similar kind of folk beliefs by examining sculptures, scriptures, and scrolls from Tibetan Buddhist traditions in Sikkim. So today's lecture will be a blend, a little bit of this and a little bit of that from my research journey. So here is a little background of what motivated me to take up these topics in the first place. There were a few fundamental research problems which I would like to introduce with an anecdote actually. So growing up, I witnessed my parents observing a very structured kind of routine filled with rituals, sort of a routine they expected me to follow as well with the same reverence and dedication. So, for example, every morning they would offer 7 bowls of water, arranging them very carefully on the altar, the chesham that we have. So, these bowls were spaced precisely with a gap equal to the size of a wheat grain between each, and they followed a very precise flow sequence as well. And I was naturally curious. I needed reasons to start doing these things, start doing such things. And every time I asked my parents, elders in my family, or even community elders, about the meaning behind these practices, the answers I received were rather vague, sort of like, this has been a custom for generations, and so we must do it. Or like, my mother taught me, so I learned it from her, and I have done it so far, and you must do it too. But I wasn't willing to just accept these explanations handed down like, pushtani har, a hereditary kind of necklace passed on half-heartedly by, let's say, some sort of mother-in-law to her newlywed daughter-in-law, right? To merely establish social relations or just to show the society, right, that they have been doing this, they are doing this, right? I wanted to begin with a deeper determination, a desire to build a genuine, heartfelt bond with the deities, not just perform an automated kind of response. So I realized through research that many people, uh, especially many people around uh, age 18 to 26, they also shared similar hesitation. We questioned why we were expected to follow certain customs. We wanted to know the reason, not because we were trying to get out of it, but because we wanted to understand the heaviness, the motivation behind doing certain things, right? And then I remembered bits and pieces of stories from my childhood. For example, when I was a kid, a brother had sat me down and he narrated this story about how the Lord Buddha did not wanted his mother to suffer, so he took birth from her armpit. Unlike other newborn children who cry, he took 7 steps in each of the 4 directions upon birth, right? And at each step a lotus flower bloomed. Hence, the number 7 became sacred and symbolic. Now, that's when I truly understood how folklore or oral narratives or any form of stories, at that matter, like for that matter, leaves a deep imprint on our minds, right? And even if these stories, they might or might not be historically or factually verifiable, but they serve as a critical role as oral narratives within these communities. They preserve culture, they preserve tradition and faith, right? And this is all the more important in the Eastern Himalayan regions of India, where cultural misunderstandings, a lack of deep knowledge, declining interest, and diminishing oral transmissions, they like threaten to erode these traditions, right? And this is what we'll be talking about, not about whether the oral traditions, the oral narratives that we discuss are actually historically or factually verifiable, but rather we'll be talking about how oral narratives has acted as a bridge to preserving culture and especially Buddhist traditions. And if you know Abhishek Upmanyu, a stand-up comedian who is one of my favorites, he once cracked a joke about being told by his father not to eat ice cream, right? So when he asked why his father, why, his father replied saying, "Daant mein keede pad jayenge," or "you will get worms in your teeth," right? So he accepted that because it sounded logical. But after a little bit of banter with his father, he asked that you should not be answering back, or like sort of retorting back, right? And when Abhishek Upmanyu again asked why, then he says again, we did not have a response. So he says again, because you must respect elders, right? So Abhishek Upmanyu asked why, and then father again replies, "Daant mein keede pad jayenge," which did not make sense, right? Which does not make sense. So this is an important point, right? Not saying we should not respect elders, but we should respect them because we want, because there are real reasons, not just because we were told to without understanding why. Right? So similarly, faith should never be half-hearted or an unthinking routine done out of fear or of habit, like worrying about worms in your teeth, right? It should come from meaningful belief and genuine engagement. And as Lord Buddha himself taught us, we should question and seek understanding rather than accept things blindly. Okay, so therefore, my research and let's say lecture will emphasize on the importance of oral narratives as cultural bridges that connect people to their heritage, sort of allowing traditions to be passed down with meaning, with curiosity, and respect for both past and future, right? So for today, I have divided this lecture into 5 distinct sections, as you can see on your screen, right? We might or might not get to complete it properly because of the dearth of time, right? However, I'll try my best to keep it short, keep it up to the length of an hour, and these will be what we will be talking about today. So now, let us begin with the rituals that a Buddhist household would begin their daily lives with. Uh, Two most prominent rituals within Buddhist households, particularly in Bhutan Tibetan cultures. One is Yuanchap and the other one is Sirkim. Right? So Yuanchap is the offering of glittering water. Okay, so in the spiritual landscape of Buddhist homes, households, the Chösham or the altar, right, it serves as a focal point for devotion. A common and visually striking element of this altar is the arrangement of 7 bowls, known as 7 ting. We call it ting, right? So these are filled with water up to the brim. Okay, and this offering is referred to as yuanchap. The term itself derived from Tibetan, which translates to glittering water, with y-o-n, yö signifying glittering, and chap denoting water. Okay, so while the act of offering pure fresh water might appear very simple at the first go, right? But its underlying significance, it extends far beyond mere hydration. Okay, so now there are metaphorical implications of these 7 things plus swimming as the Ashtapuja that we know. I'll not be going into that since these are the information that you'll easily get it online as well. Okay, I'll rather be going with the interviews that were taken during the span of my research. And there is Geshe Jampel Sangpola of Tharpe Choling Monastery in Kalimpong. He explained the method of offering, which he says is as crucial as the offering itself. Right? So the water must be transferred little by little from one to another at first. It shouldn't be empty. If kept empty on the altar, the gods from below claim those bowls. It should be kept at a distance of a grain, a single wheat grain. If kept too close, closeness with our loved ones will suffocate us. And if kept too far, the relationship between the loved ones and us becomes distant. Shouldn't be too full, as too much happiness will uh, keep you stuck in the samsaric cycle, because too much happiness won't make you realize that you need to get out of this cycle. And it shouldn't be too little that you will always lack happiness. You must start pouring the water slowly at first, and then a little more, and then again a little, and then stop. Right? So this detailed instruction highlights the importance of precision and mindfulness in the ritual. Right? So the injunction against leaving bowls empty is particularly noteworthy here. It suggests a belief in the active presence of deities who interact with the offerings, right? So the specific pouring technique with its varying pace also, it further emphasizes the deliberate and reverent nature of the offering. Now, there are narratives that attribute the origin of the water offering ritual to Jovoje Palden Atisha. who was a revered Acharya from Nalanda, who introduced this practice after his arrival in Tibet to spread Buddhism. Right now, the rationale behind offering water rather than more material possessions is profound. And monk Nima Lama from Karmagun Monastery in Kolkata, he explained why, while gold and silver could have been offered, right? But then, instead of that, why did one start offering pure water, clear water, which is free of cost, right? So the human tendency towards greed and temptation, it makes consistent offerings of such valuables a sort of unsustainable. Right now, water, however, is something that can be offered daily, symbolizing a continuous and pure act of devotion. It represents the most precious element which is essential for life, without which life does not exist, right? And its offering is an act of profound respect. And Game Tenzin Chodap of Tharpa Choling also, he further elaborates on the inherent qualities of this water that needs to be offered, right? He says it should be Serne Serpo, as in pure, Chimne Shimbu, as in tasty, Yongne Yangbu, as in light, Jangne Jambu, as in soft, Tangshe Thangbu, as in strong, Chimame, as in odorless, and Towa de Toktu, which can quench your thirst, which can quench your hunger as well. Right. So another significant ritual in this Tibetan Buddhist household is the Serkim offering. The term Serkim is composed of two Tibetan words, Ser meaning gold and Kim meaning beverage. So this ritual holds a particularly important historical and symbolic weight, as it is understood, according to few narratives, to have been introduced as a substitute for the ancient practice of blood offering in Tantric Buddhism. Now, the primary motivation behind its adoption was to halt animal sacrifices and blood offerings. Thereby, it was sort of in order to promote a more compassionate and ethical form of worship. Right. So traditionally, Serkim offerings primarily utilize lightly brewed black tea. However, the practice is more flexible now. Anything reddish or brownish liquid is used. Now, the act of offering this is typically directed towards Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and particularly to enlightened protectors who are regarded as fierce manifestations. It can also be offered to one's Yidam, right? Yidam is one's personal deity, or to figures such as Green Tara, right? So the um, main purpose is to generate merit for the practitioner, which is essential for overcoming obstacles, right? And these obstacles can manifest in various forms, including sickness, doubt, poverty, right? And this offering is believed to facilitate quick activity or swift assistance also, right? So you can see the vessels on your right hand side, right? So the tea must be prepared at first. Hot tea should be prepared in a sufficient quantity to allow for continuous pouring throughout the recitation of offering prayer. Okay, and the vessel, while a formal serkim set like the one on your right side, it which consists of a chalice and a basin, right? It's the ideal formal serkim set, but a simple yet attractive cup placed with a bowl can also serve the same purpose. Basically, the crucial element is the symbolic overflowing of liquid. So these rituals, it's a common tradition in monasteries and among devout Buddhists to perform serkim offerings daily as well, often before consuming their own first cup of tea, though this can be a symbolic gesture. This consistent practice underscores the ritual's role in daily spiritual discipline and continuous generation of merit. So moving on, as you can see, Sakadawa is one of the practices that Tibetan Buddhists practice, right? So this is the sacred fourth month of our lunar calendar that most locals only know as the birthday of the Buddha. Basically, Sakadawa is a significant month for Buddhists which commemorates the birth, but not only birth, but enlightenment and passing of the Buddha into parinirvana on the same day. So during this time, individuals participate in various religious activities to gain virtue. One prevalent piece of folklore associated with Sakadawa is the myth of Gevatong. Geva means merit or virtue, and Tong means 1,000. Right? So this myth states that good deeds carried out on the full moon day of Sakadawa or Sakadawa region are multiplied many times over, often a thousandfold. And this belief catalyzes merit building throughout the month. And about donating in excess during Sakadawa, actually, as a discipline, this began as a celebration in honor of the Buddha's birth, as like in the honor of Siddhartha Gautama's birth. On this occasion, his father, King Sudodhan, had reportedly made several tributes and donations. It is even believed that he gave the Brahmins a field covered with jewels, right? And it was known as Ratna Chakra. So this was to celebrate its auspiciousness, but this somehow established a tradition of presenting offerings and donations and contributions to commemorate Siddhartha Gautama's or Lord Buddha's birth thereafter. Also, there's this scientific data saying that if anything is repeatedly done for 21 days, it becomes a habit. According to some scholars, it is also believed that the Sakadawa month is also aimed at incorporating good deeds into one's life, into one's routine of the practitioners, with the concept of Gevatong as a bait or an intention. Now, other than that, we have Nyungne. Nyungne is another such fasting and purification ritual, which is like related to a lot of oral narratives. So, this purification ritual is attributed to the compassionate Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, Chirisi, right? It involves a rigorous regimen of vows, of stations, of mantra recitations, visualizations, and meditation over 2 days, often including a fast from food and water. So the origin of this Yungne practice in Tibetan Buddhism revolves around Gelungma Palmo, okay, also known as Bhikshuni Kamala in Indian languages, right? And there are two versions of her, like two recurring versions of her background. The first version, as according to Khenpo Sonam Gyatso, Gelungma Palmo was a widow who had escaped the prevailing sati practice at that time, and she moved to a remote mountain, and soon she became afflicted with leprosy. So, in her solitude, she turned to meditation, directing her prayers to Chenrezig, and she endured days without food or water. And in response to her fervent supplication, Chenrezig bestowed his blessings upon her, miraculously curing her of these kind of diseases, right? And the second version of the story is also similar. It was by Khenpo Thupten Yeshe. A YouTube video of this is also there, also available. Gyaluma Palmo belonged to the royal family, according to him. One of King Dharmapala, an ancient king of Kashmir, India. She was one of the princesses who left the royal palace to seek peace, the kind of peace that Siddhartha Gautama sought. And she was quickly afflicted with leprosy on her way that left her exhausted and with aches in her joints, But she nevertheless fasted for Chenrezig without food, or without drinking, without communication with anyone. And she promptly recovered from her illness. Other than that, there is one more oral narrative related to Nyungne, the practice of Nyungne. Here, it was again recounted by Khenpo Thupten Yeshe. It involves the highly venerated Bodhisattva Dawa Gelchen, Chandra Dhwaj in Indian languages. Okay, so he lived in the 18th century, and a woman afflicted with terminal ailments came to him, like seeking permissions or seeking guidance as to how to perform Nyungne, because she had heard that Nyungne would heal everything. So she confessed a history of serious transgressions, including killing an unborn child, poisoning others, poisoning her husband, planning deaths, which led to her being shunned by the society. And despite her past, Bodhisattva Dawa Gyalchen graciously granted her permission to perform Nyungne, emphasizing the practice's transformative potential. Now, there are 2 days each for one set of Nyungne, and 8 sets would be a must in order to complete the entire set of Nyungne. So in the first 2 sets of Nyungne, the woman struggled a little. So she, out of hunger, she stole a torma which was decorated on the altar nearby. And then on the second day, she stole a little chang, because chang is an alcoholic beverage. Okay, so she stole that a little because she was thirsty. However, she persisted and finished the last 6 sets of the practice, but she died 3 days later. Now, when she was when Chandradhaj was asked about the karmic consequences of her successful completion of 6 sets of Nyungne, Bodhisattva Dawa Gyalchini disclosed that she had been reborn as a boy in a prosperous Brahmin family, which is supposed to be a good news. However, she encountered difficulties due to her unusual appearance from destroying a decorated torma on the altar in her past life, right? And difficulty in walking because she broke the precept of abstaining from alcohol, right? So these kind of stories impart deep insights with true resolve and devotion before Chenrisi, which which is said that it never goes in vain, right? It also warns that deviating from the path of righteousness has karmic consequences. Okay, so moving on to Losung, many of the cham dances performed during Losung that is also performed during Sakadawa. Actually, the picture of the masked person, masked monk who is in a dancing position. That is the cham that I am talking about at the moment. The dances tell the story of uh, the arrival of Guru Padma Sambhava in the Himalayas during the Losung celebrations, his subjugation of anti-Buddhist demons and local deities, right? And a key performance is that of Black Hat or Shanak, uh, Shanak dance. These dancers wear large black hats, intricate costumes, and fierce masks, and they represent tantric yogis with the power to subdue evil forces. Now, Guru Padma Sambhava is credited with consecrating Sikkim as a sacred land at Peyul Demojong. The Losung festival, being the New Year celebration, is a time to ritually reaffirm and cleanse this sacred space. Okay, so the prayers and rituals performed during Losung are seen as continuation of Guru's original blessings. And by celebrating his deeds, the community re energizes the spiritual protection he bestowed upon the land, ensuring peace and prosperity for the coming year, right? And the central theme of Losung is basically victory of good over evil, right? With similar intentions, eating of gutuk with family. Gutuk is the noodle that you can see on your right side, right? Gutuk with family is a playful and innovative way of keeping the narratives alive, especially during Losung. The name Gutuk, right? The first term, it breaks down into Gu and Thuk. Now, Gu is number 9, and Thuk meaning soup or stew or noodles, actually. Okay, so the number 9 is highly significant in Tibetan culture and like spiritually predating even the arrival of Buddhism. It is considered a magical or auspicious number, and there are supposed to be traditionally 9 ingredients are expected to be there in the Gothuk soup. Okay, namely meat, dried cheese, radish, peas, onions or garlic, ginger, spinach, wheat flour for the doughs, and pepper or spices. Now, the combination of these ingredients creates a hearty, warming stew, perfect for the cold Himalayan winter also, which is why this was more like attributed towards the Himalayan regions of India. So other than that those 9 ingredients, there should be 9 dough balls. This is sort of a playful and anticipated part of Gutuk meal. And these dough balls are prepared and mixed into soup. Inside each dough ball, a different item is hidden. And as the family members eat, they discover these balls. And the object is said to be a light-hearted prediction or commentary on their character for the upcoming year. For example, we have cardiol or the wool. It symbolizes kind, gentle, good-hearted person, right? Cha or salt symbolizes laziness or an idle person. Solva, charcoal, signifies a black heart. Sora, a thorn, indicates a prickly, critical, and quarrelsome personality. Shilpan, or chili pepper, means the person is talkative and sharp-tongued. Shopu or paper, it represents an intelligent but fickle-minded person. Dogar, or a white pebble, positive sign predicting longevity or good fortune. Then we have rebol, a twisted piece of a rag, which implies an indecisive person or a people pleaser. And then lastly, we have a bushing, a small piece of wood or stick. And this is often interpreted as a sign of a stingy person, right? Now, this after having this gutuk, it's not over yet. The rituals after the meal is the actual ritual. It is in order to banish the old year's negativity. Now, the Gutuk ceremony is more than just a meal. It is a powerful ritual of purification. After the main meal, a special effigy is made from dough called lun. This is designed to be a scapegoat. Now, it is filled with small portion of the leftover gutuk, and um, family members touch it, wipe their bodies with it, or breathe on it. And this act symbolically transfers all their illness, all their misfortunes, negative karma, and bad luck from the past year onto the effigy. Now, there is a procession of fire. So once the negativity has been transferred to the lune, the exorcism begins. Now, a male member of the household lights a torch made of straw and carries the Lui effigy. He runs through every room of the house shouting, come out in Tibet, right? And he chases away any lingering evil spirits. So the rest of the family follows, making noise to help drive the spirits away. While discarding this negativity is the procession moves out of the house and towards the nearest intersection or crossroads. And the torch and the lue are thrown into the middle of the intersection with a final loud shout. Okay, and this location is chosen, as in this location of crossroads is chosen because traditionally these are seen as places where spirits gather. And it is believed that evil spirits will be confused and unable to find their way back to the house. So the family members must return home immediately without looking back. Looking back could invite the spirits to follow them. So now moving on to the sacred sites, the sacred circuits. Beul Demojong, often translated as the hidden land, right, of the fruitful valley and rice. It is recognized by the Lhopo community as a sacred landscape. It is believed to be a paradise, and Guru Rinpoche played a very important, Guru Padmasambhava Guru Rinpoche, he played a very important role in shaping the spiritual landscape of Sikkim. Okay, and oral narratives and mythic histories recount his visit to Sikkim in 8th century on his way to Tibet. Now, during his journey, he encountered and subdued hostile deities and spirits, and he turned them into dharma protectors. So, Sikkim is considered the most sacred of all hidden lands. Um, it is also like mostly equivalent to paradise itself, and it is believed to have been personally blessed by Guru Rinpoche. And the land is said to be an epicenter or a navel and the mother of all hidden lands, where those who, like Guru Padmasambhava's visit to Sikkim was marked by significant events that consecrated the land, established the tradition of terma. Terma as in the hidden texts or hidden treasures, right? So upon his arrival, Guru Rinpoche first visited the Guru Tongmar lake in North Sikkim to test an omen. And finding a favorable sign, he miraculously landed on Tashiding Hill in West Sikkim with his 25 disciples. Now, this hill was designated as the navel point of the sacred land and Dejong. From there, Guru Padmasambhava explored and blessed the entire region, and he sanctified caves, he sanctified rocks, he sanctified lakes, streams, and he left his footprints on various rocks, right? And a crucial aspect of his visit was the concealment of numerous religious treasures, the terma that I was mentioning above. Right, so around 1372 AD, a treasure revealer Lama named Rizin Godemchen, he visited Sikkim and revealed many texts, many Terma texts, which helped restore Guru Rinpoche's teachings and provided guidance on the location of sacred places for Lamas of later eras. Now, the establishment of stupas and monasteries in Sikkim is deeply intertwined with the arrival of three noble saints from Tibet in 1642 AD. Gyalwal Hatsun Shempo, Ngata Semba Rigzin Phuntsok, and Kathok Puntusampo. Right? So these saints entered Sikkim from the north, south, and west, like western gates, respectively, as a religious act to open the sacred and introduce Buddhism. And their first assembly point was Norbugang in western Sikkim. Now it is known as Yuksam. So here they acted upon Guru Rinpoche's prophecy and sent a search party eastward for the destined Chogyal. Cho as in dharma, and Gyalpo as in king of the land. Okay, so this led to the discovery of Phuntsok Namgyal of Demojong in 1642 AD, and this is how the story unfolds, right? And following this, with the blessings of these three pioneers, six premier monasteries were founded, strategically located in different directions: Pemayangse in West Sikkim, Tashiding in West Sikkim, Phensang in North Sikkim, Ralong in South Sikkim, Rumtek in East Sikkim, and Kodang in North Sikkim. So yes, the crowning of Phuntsok Namgyal took place at Norbugang near Yuksam, like I already mentioned, and it is said, there are oral narratives, that the coronation ceremony was a grand affair blending Buddhist and indigenous rituals. Right, and Phuntsok Namgyal was anointed by sprinkling water from a sacred urn, signifying his spiritual and temporal authority. Now, the Chogyals were not merely political leaders, but their titles derived from the Tibetan words Chö. Okay, so talking about the legends surrounding the Chogyal kings, it often emphasized their connection to Guru Rinpoche's prophecies and sacredness of Sikkim as a Bayul, right? And in Sikkim, Guru Rinpoche is widely celebrated throughout the Himalayan region for his miraculous ability to subdue malevolent spirits, right? And one of the most prominent narratives involves his invitation to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen. The king sought to build the first Buddhist monastery in Tibet, Same Monastery, right? But its construction was repeatedly hindered by powerful local spirits and demons who would dismantle the day's work overnight. Now, unable to overcome these obstacles, the king, on the advice of the Indian scholar Shantarakshita, invited Guru Rinpoche to Tibet. Now, Guru Rinpoche, with his profound tantric powers, successfully subjugated these entities, right? And binding them by oath to protect the Dharma and allowing the completion of Same Monastery. Now, this act is often depicted as a symbolic triumph of Buddhism over indigenous animistic beliefs, integrating local spiritual forces into Buddhist framework as well. And Khenpo Thupten Sangpo of Shegyue Institute of Buddhist Studies in Salugara, he states how, upon close introspection of the walls of Same even today, you will find irregularly placed weird patterns of stones followed by perfectly laid ones. And again, this pattern repeats because, but the reason being, during the day humans built it, and at night the spirits were building it. So his subduing of spirits was not merely an act of conquest, but often involved a transformation of these beings as well. So, short, tight ringlet on the cranial bump of the Buddha. There were Instagram reels circulating regarding how snails had covered his head in order to protect the Buddha's head from the scorching heat of sun, right? However, there are various narratives, not saying one is right and the other one is wrong, but there are various narratives related to this. Okay, so technically the oral narratives that I came across, which were more most recurring, was that these curls, these ringlets, often depicted in Buddha statues, it symbolize the shedding of ignorance, as hair is metaphorically associated with human illusion or ignorance, right? So cutting or shaving the hair represented a determination to maintain a clean body and mind to attain enlightenment. And Buddha statues often depict elongated earlobes, right? I think I have to hurry up with the remaining slide. So yes, as a prince, he wore very heavy gold earrings, right? And this stretched his earlobes. Now, after renouncing his worldly possessions also, he no longer wore them, but the elongated earlobes, it remained as a physical reminder of his past and his detachment from material attachments, right? And this is why it is still present in the iconography of a Buddha statue. I'll quickly move on to Avalokiteshvara. Okay, Avalokiteshvara or Chinresi, he is one of the most revered bodhisattvas in Buddhism. He is widely known as the bodhisattva of compassion, right? And the depiction of Avalokiteshvara with 1,000 hands and 1,000 heads symbolizes his boundless capacity to perceive and elevate the suffering of all, right? And each Hand represents a different method of means he employs to help sentient beings with. And each eye, which is often depicted in the palm of each hand, right? It signifies his all-seeing wisdom and compassion. Now, one prominent legend, it states that he was so moved by the immense suffering in the world that his head split into many pieces and body shattered. Now, Amitabh Buddha, seeing his plight, he reassembled him with a 1,000 hands and 11 heads, granting him the enhanced ability to help all beings. And related to this compassion story is the origin of green Tara. As you can see, there is a little textbook on the right hand side. Right, you see, Avalokiteshvara is shedding tears, and out of his tears was born the Tara. Now, she is known as the mother of liberation, right? And Khenpo Sonam Gyatso of Sangdok Palri Monastery, Kalimpong, he narrated one of the most significant origin stories of Green Tara that connects her directly to Avalokiteshvara. And it is said that Tara emerged from the compassionate tears of Avalokiteshvara as Avalokiteshvara wept while observing the suffering of the world, and a lotus flower bloomed from a lake formed by his tears. And this legend highlights her role as a manifestation of Avalokiteshvara's boundless, boundless compassion, we can say. So here, these are scrolls or thangkas, right? And Sipak Porlo, the wheel of life, is the commonmost that you'll find in any monastery that you visit. So this is presented as a most sophisticated example of integrated visual oral pedagogy within Tibetan Buddhist education, right? And Khenpo Lakpa Bomzen, he not going into the details of each realm and each circle, because these are easily found, easily accessible these days on the internet. I'll just point out what Khenpo Lakpa Bomzen had to say. He depicted, he talked about this image of Buddha on the I think right to our side, okay, right top of the Sipakul, right? Most of its iconographical details can be found, has been put in written, but a particularly profound pedagogical element which was often overlooked is the Buddha figure outside the wheel, right? And the Buddha figure is gesturing towards the Dharma Chakra, or either Dharma Chakra or Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, something that acts as a symbol of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Now, what it says is, it conveys through oral explanation that this reveals that this gesture signifies that liberation from samsara is achieved by following the Buddha's teachings, right? And the fact that he's just pointing at the Dharma Sangha, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, is that he will not be able to pick you out of the wheel and place you outside the wheel, but he will only be able to guide you, not a savior, but he would illuminate the path to nirvana, okay, not by directly extracting beings from the cycle of existence. So this crucial oral detail transforms the thangkas message from a passive cosmological diagram into an active call for personal responsibility, right? And then we have Sipaho that you can see in the center, right? It is often misunderstood as Sipakolo. Okay, Sipaho is explicitly identified as an astrological amulet, distinct from Sipakolo. It is an upturned tortoise, right? A golden tortoise. And this confusion is attributed to inadequate knowledge. It implies a failure in effective oral transmission of accurate information, right? And this lecture notes that without proper educational context to these cultural markers, right? It would, let's say, oral explanations would be very important. Otherwise, commercialization can lead to consumers making purchases that do not align with their spiritual intentions. Now, on your right side is Palden Lama. Okay, she was known as Remati or Sri Devi, and she's presented as a fierce protector deity whose complex iconography is inextricably linked, it is linked to oral narratives. Right? The story is not merely visually represented, but it is conveyed and understood through accompanying explanatory narratives. Now, detailed descriptions of a visual attributes, you can see she's riding a mule with an eye on its back. If you can notice, there is an eye on the back of the mule, right? It is a result, it is a mark resulting from an arrow shot by her evil king, who was the evil king of Sri Lanka at that time. right? And this transformed into a blessing. And she's also holding a kapala containing the blood of her own son, okay, whom she was compelled to eliminate for following his father's unrighteous path, right? And with this plate skin draped across her waist, these are elements that derive their profound meaning and pedagogical impact from these oral narratives. Okay, so looking at the time, I think it would be wiser for me to conclude. So, more than just stories, these narratives serve as dynamic and resilient cultural bridges, right? It connects individuals, it connects communities and generations. And our focus today was on their critical role, particularly within Buddhist traditions. And though the principles we discuss are universally applicable, we explored how oral narratives function as vital repositories of knowledge, sophisticated mechanisms for clarifying complex ideas, right? And indispensable tools for preservation and evolution of cultural heritage. And now this presentation itself, it is aimed to eliminate the multifaceted ways in which spoken stories, they shape our understanding, they transmit values and ensure the enduring relevance of profound teachings in an ever-changing world, right? So oral narratives are far more than simple tales. They are living archives serving as primary knowledge repositories for intricate concepts and profound wisdom. So, yes, as we draw this discussion to a close, let us reflect on the profound importance of the spoken word in Buddhist tradition. Now, my research in Eastern Himalayan region has consistently shown that oral narratives are not mere footnotes to textual canons, right? They are like the very lifeblood that keeps the wisdom of the Dharma flowing through the veins of community. And they are, as we have seen, vital repositories of knowledge. They translate complex philosophical ideas into accessible, memorable stories, right? And this is the heart of preservation. As scholar and translator Pema Chudunla, she reminds us the essence of the teaching is not in the words, but in what is transmitted behind the words. So this transmission is sacred task of the storyteller, right? Furthermore, these narratives are very much linked to tangible world of practice. And this echoes the sentiment of religious historian Karen Armstrong, who wrote, "An image or a story can speak to us at a level deeper than the purely rational," right? It is through these stories that a statue ceases to be just a stone and becomes a source of inspiration. So let's say, let's conclude by remembering the words of great mythologist Joseph Campbell, who said, "The function of ritual and myth is to make a connection between our waking consciousness and the mystery of the universe." So the oral stories, oral traditions of Himalayas do precisely that, right? They are not just stories, they are the living breath of the Dharma, ensuring that its wisdom remains a vital transformative force for generations to come. So on this final slide, I would like to acknowledge the valuable academic resources and the generous support system that have made this research possible. The academic references listed here include important works that deeply informed my understanding of Buddhist oral traditions and Himalayan cultural dynamics. So these scholars have contributed foundational perspectives on orality, textual transmission, sustainable cultural development, and sacred landscapes, if any of you would be interested in research on similar grounds. And other than that, I'm profoundly grateful to the many individuals who supported and encouraged me throughout this journey. Thank you all for being a part of this journey as well. Over to you, ma'am. I think I could end the presentation here.
Participants, if you have any query or doubts, you can ask to ma'am. You can unmute yourself and ask to ma'am. Or you can write down in chat box. Someone raise a hand. Please unmute yourself and ask to ma'am if you have any query or doubts.
So, ma'am,